I'm literally dying of disease / death / both. I'm not doing very well this morning. I'm going to use Streetcar to prop up my iPad. Maybe that will be helpful. No? Is that going to work? Basically, I want to put my iPad so you can actually see me. There we go. Okay, that's cool. Oh, wow. 58 people are watching. Cool. Cool. Yeah, so basically I thought we could just do some discussion on the Great Gatsby, because I know a lot of people study it. So if basically I thought I learn best by talking about things, so I thought this would help me, but also a lot of people love Gatsby, so maybe it would be really, really helpful to discuss it a bit maybe, and we can like share ideas and stuff like that. I have my book with me. So yeah, does anybody study OCR or AQA? I think it's on AQA, but I think you do it as like a tragedy, as like and when I do Streetcar, I might do Streetcar in a bit. Yeah, actually. How did you find the Chaucer exam? Awful. Messed it. Pre-U. Oh my gosh, cool. No, Gatsby's great. OCR, LXL. Oh my gosh. Right. So basically it's on like every exam board, I'm pretty sure. When is it starting now? It's starting now. Not really sure where to start. Like where do I start? Where do we start? How do we do this? I haven't really thought about it. If I do Streetcar, I'll do it in about an hour, I think. I'll have to see what mood I'm in. So CC, oh my gosh, literally everybody does it. Cool. That's amazing. So basically it's on like every single exam board. So how do you want to start this? What do you want to talk about? What do you want to, what sort of aspects of the text shall we talk about? Because we can have a discussion, because we have comments. Themes. Ooh. Well, obviously there's quite a lot of themes in The Great Gatsby. So you have obviously the American dream and the corruption of the American dream. And then obviously you have class, money, love, truth, lies, corruption, and things like that. Obviously the main theme is, you know, it is the great American novel. It is about the corruption of the American dream. So I'd say that's probably like the main aspect of the novel, which obviously you can trace through Nick as a narrator and the way that he raises Gatsby to an ideal, and then his death becomes the death of the American dream because of the amount that Nick has narrated. Obviously as well, like you have like the Jazz Age and like hedonism and all of that, the wild parties. You have East Egg versus West Egg, old money versus new money, European values as well. So I mean there's absolutely loads that you can talk about themes wise. It depends on what question it is, but I would always try and link to the themes. Yeah, hedonism's basically like overconsumption. So, you know, when you sort of live very decadently and lavishly, so like the parties, they're described as like spectroscopic gaiety and all that sort of stuff. It's very much in the moment. It's like bewitched to magic gold, harlequin designs and all that sort of stuff. So you kind of get the sense of the conspicuous consumption sort of thing going on. I don't have any GCSE essays actually. I didn't chuck them away, but like I don't know where they are. Nick as a narrator, Christ. Okay, I feel like we do need to cover Nick as a narrator. How did your English on Friday go? Awful. my tempest was like not that bad. But I forgot, I didn't really put any context in because I couldn't think of any. But Chaucer, I messed it up so badly. Never messed up Chaucer essay as bad as I messed that one up. So they're gonna think that I'm literally thick, even though I know the text like the back of my hand. With the parties, there's also a difference in age. You can kind of look at the power imbalance due to money. Of course, if you contrast the parties of East Egg and West Egg, they're completely different. I would actually say that Fitzgerald is less condemning of the parties at West Egg, just because both kind of communities are like moving from nothing to nothing, but at least the West Eggers are honest in the fact that they know that their life has no meaning and they use money and wealth to cover that up, whereas those people in East Egg try and have this like sense of like moral superiority, but when you actually think about it, they really don't, and in fact they're actually a lot more destructive. How many sides did you write? Christ, it must have been like 3.5 each, which is more than I've ever written before. Not good. So glad you're doing this. Gatsby is a text I'm least confident with. Me too. So how have I revised Gatsby? Oh, it's really difficult, I think. It's the most difficult one to revise. I reread it just before Easter, but I think I might need to reread it again. So I might do that the night before my exam. But basically, I've kind of... My main way I've revised it is through Nick as a narrator, because I feel like he is like the key to understanding the text. So I have like my Nick as a narrator, my map. And I've revised key quotes because you need quotes, and I've done past paper questions. I've done 3 because there are only 3 on the website. Tips for GCSE. I can't even remember. Just remember that the examiner's a lot more lenient than your teachers, because I came out of both of mine, crying, thinking, oh my god, I'm gonna get a C. But I think they're a lot more lenient because my essays were crap, but they gave me good marks. So, there are no Gatsby questions. I need some questions on Gatsby. Any tips when you get an extract in the exam? Well, if it's Gatsby, no joke. It was like, I think like you just need to remember that they'll always give you like a thematic link. So always just think, right, what theme is this linking to? So last year I think the question on OCR was Daisy, so it was basically a case of looking, and there was stuff in the extract about like thrilling and about her appearance, the woman in the extract, so you can compare and contrast in that way. I would always use the extract as a springboard and explore the text itself more than the extract. I wouldn't try and like tear the extract apart. I have to compare Gatsby with The Age of Innocence. Yeah, I really wanted to do The Age of Innocence, but I think we do Farewell to Arms next year, so it's really annoying. But how does Fitzgerald present the American dream as futile? I think the main way that he does that is through Gatsby, because the way that Nick narrates it, you kind of realise that his pursuit of a dream is in fact futile. Like the whole thing is completely futile. Like it through Nick's narration, Gatsby becomes as impossible as the dream that Nick kind of forces him to embody. He kind of becomes a representative of America. So I feel like the futility of the American dream is shown through its corruption, because obviously the American dream, as Nick describes it at the end, is, you know, the fresh green breast of the new world and all of this sort of stuff, and a dream of, you know, new discovery and breaking away from Europe and becoming your own person. But obviously the dream itself has become corrupt, and you kind of see that through Gatsby's self-corruption and the fact that the dream becomes very much associated with material acquisition rather than with, you know, happiness and self-fulfillment. It's quite ironic that Gatsby is a self-made man, yet he fills his house with European things, and obviously in European society, you know, a self-made man like Gatsby just wouldn't exist. So yeah. Can you discuss Wilson and his illness and a representation of a person trying to achieve the American dream? I think Wilson's so important. Like Wilson is like one of the key characters, I think, just because he's so minor, but he says so much, because when you look at Wilson, he's described as like green, he's described as like spiritless, anemic. He very much blends into the environment that he's in, and obviously he resigns himself completely to his life. He doesn't try like Myrtle to social climb. He very much clings onto what little he has, and you do see that he makes no attempt to improve himself until near the end of the novel, and he's very much a product of the Valley of Ashes. So when he's described compared to Tom, I feel like he's really important to juxtapose against Tom. They both are very much controlling of their wives, but Tom is a lot more successful in doing so because he has wealth. They both act extremely instinctively, but again, Tom is more successful in doing so because he has his wealth as a cushion. Of course, you have the whole thing with Wilson in his like dogged belief in that God sees everything, and you try to fool me but you can't fool God, and he kind of clings to those eyes because the TJ Eckleburg eyes become a symbolism of some sort of higher power. He's kind of desperate for a higher power to like rein in all of the destructive impulses that he has. So when Michaelis, is that his name, points out that you know, it's just an advertisement, that it's at that point that he switches to going on his quest for revenge. And what I think is the most significant thing about Wilson that you just cannot forget is that when he comes to West Egg in search of Gatsby, he's described as an amorphous figure, you know, between the trees. Hi Jade, I will do setting next. He's described as an amorphous figure. So it's kind of like in him coming to kill Gatsby, it's kind of like Gatsby's past has come back to haunt him, like all of the dust and all of the corruption that his wealth is built upon kind of comes back to haunt him in a very, you know, tragic way. And if you are going to see Gatsby as a tragedy, you know, it's not just a tragedy of Gatsby, it's a tragedy of Wilson, it's a tragedy of Myrtle, it's a tragedy of all the people that have tried to climb within the society but just don't have the wealth and the ability to do so, which is quite sad actually. Yeah, and also you can talk about Wilson's relationship with Myrtle, you know, because obviously he's very controlling of Myrtle, but he has no power to control her. My favourite line of Myrtle's is, you know, when she says, like, throw me down and beat me, you dirty little coward, or whatever it is. Because it's kind of like, in a sick, twisted way, she's begging to be, you know, degraded. And she's begging to be treated roughly at the hands of men, because that is all she's seen as. She's seen as an object. I'll go on to women later, though, because I feel like women are really important. Setting, though, I think setting is the most important part of Gatsby, because it kind of creates this sense of like isolation within this story, that it becomes a tragedy of a very, very tiny area. You're going to be discussing Streetcar. Maybe at like 11 o'clock I might go on to Streetcar. But I would say with setting for Gatsby, obviously you have New York, you have the Valley of Ashes, you have East Egg, West Egg. So all four of them are very important in different ways. So which one should I start with? Which one do you guys want to talk about first? Because like, and also like put your ideas in the comments as well, because I could always do with some new ideas. Valley of Ashes, yeah. I think the Valley of Ashes is like so bloody important. It is literally the byproduct of all of the rich's wealth. I think what the most important thing to note is that when you see these images of, you know, consumption and hedonism and parties, Fitzgerald weaves in destruction behind all of it. Like, there's never an image of, you know, consumption and wealth that isn't juxtaposed against, you know, decay, destruction. And like that is that image of dust that sort of permeates the entire novel. It's the foul dust that preyed on Gatsby. So obviously the Valley of Ashes is, you know, a wasteland, and we did a whole like 3 lessons on comparing it to T.S. Eliot's The Wasteland. It's basically very much, you know, a barren landscape. When he's describing it, it's called transcendent, barren, ashes grow like wheat, men move dimly and already crumbling, all of that sort of stuff. So it's very much the people there have become a part of the landscape. And it's kind of a byproduct of the consumerism and the huge celebrity culture and the rich culture that's kind of boomed. And by having the ashes as a juxtaposition to East Egg and West Egg, you very much get the sense of the dust that sort of spreads throughout the novel. It kind of infects everything. A lot of people say that the foul dust is, you know, Gatsby and Tom, and I'm not doubting that they are, but 100% what you have to remember is that, like, the foul dust is literally the dust of the Valley of Ashes. It's the corruption, it's the destruction that rich people leave in their wake. Note that, you know, they never ever stop in the Valley of Ashes for a long period of time until Myrtle dies. Like, it's always just a way to get to New York. So yeah, it's interesting. And also you've got to note that the people there just never try and improve their lives. As Olivia said, yeah, they're just left to stagnate. Not very nice. They are kind of the inevitable byproduct of the people, the riches and the poor. Yes, oh my gosh, Eyes of TJ Ecclesburg are so, yeah, literally. Basically, after World War One, there was very much a sense of disillusionment in America because there'd been this great sense of patriotism, and then all of a sudden there was just this destruction on like a huge scale, and a lot of people felt very disillusioned and like didn't know what to do. And Gertrude Stein sort of coined the term like the lost generation. So that's kind of a generation of people that, you know, really just don't know what to do with themselves. They're all very restless. If you notice, every single one of the characters in the novel is restless. Tom's like seeking the turbulence of an irrecoverable football game. Daisy's restless. She's paralysed with happiness. She's like, what do people plan? Jordan's restless. Nick himself is restless. Gatsby is extremely restless, especially in chapter 5, if you notice his behaviour. They're all, you know, shiftless, restless people, and that is kind of what the novel is about. It's about how these people cope with the restlessness and the sense of purposelessness. So with the Eyes of TJ Ecclesburg, they kind of symbolise the fact that God has been replaced by consumerism, and that people no longer worship God, they worship material possessions, and that the eyes are said that like dimmed a little by many paintless days. So you can kind of say that's how, you know, America's spiritual values have been neglected in the face of consumerism. So yeah, I mean, they're really important. I would also say they're really important because they represent the fact that there's no real moral centre that kind of reigns in these people's destructive impulses, which is really great, I think, you know, to have that sort of symbolism. And also you can talk about, you know, the yellow of the rim of the glasses. Yellow in the novel becomes very much interlinked with gold, corruption. I think the importance of yellow and gold in the novel is that wealth and greatness are very much separated. You know, the idea that yellow and gold become so interlinked and so just together. Even Daisy, you know, Daisy is white on the outside, yellow on the inside. You've got the yellow car, you've got Myrtle's yellow dress, you've got everything. You know, it's kind of that idea that there is no God, there is no morality, there is nothing to rein in these people's impulses. So it's kind of an America that's a bit destitute. So yeah. Yellow is the impersonation of gold and represents Gatsby's illusion. 100%. It's completely, like, I think, you know, he wears a white suit with a gold tie. It's very much the sense of gold being something that's pretty on the outside but not on the inside. Also, one of my friends in my class once said, she was like, basically, you know how there's a lot of heat in chapter 7 and the heat's like unbearable and stifling and stuff like that. Basically, what he said was, not he, she, I go to an all-girls school, what am I saying? Basically, the idea that, like, you know how, you know, the heat, it's kind of basically fake gold melts in the heat. So in the heat of that relationship, the heat is used to test Gatsby and Daisy's relationship, and obviously because his gold is fake and his gold is all an illusion that he creates to hide his true self, it works out quite well, you know. So the gold melts and he's revealed for who he is. Yeah, his glasses are yellow. What is the most prominent theme within The Great Gatsby? It really depends on the angle from which you're looking at it. If you're studying it from a tragedy point of view, then it's going to be the tragedy of the American dream. The novel is basically a eulogy for the American dream, an indictment of the American dream and what it's become and all that sort of crap. But I would say for me, just for me, like if I was going to pick a theme, it would probably be sort of class. I feel like class is the main theme in Gatsby. You know, that's manifested through settings, manifested through the characters, it's manifested through even like Nick's narrative perspective. He is both within and without. He is, you know, he's got a prominent enough background to be with the East Egg crowd, but he's also living within West Egg, so he literally symbolises the class divide. He's like there in the middle. What's the most important thing we get to be looking at the broad concept of love? 100%, if you're looking at it from the context of love, I really think you need to talk about the fact that love and money are just completely mixed for Gatsby. You know what I mean? Like, her voice was full of money. He is in love with what Daisy represents. He's never in love with Daisy the person. And, you know, he pursues Daisy with this sort of dogged absolutism. But then it doesn't ever work out for him because he's in love with the idea of Daisy. He's in love with the idea of self-improvement and stuff like that. Yeah. Talk about setting. Oh, yeah, sorry. East and West Egg. Well, at the start, you sort of hear about the gulls that fly overhead. So obviously from a sort of distance level, very, very much East and West Egg are similar in the way that they look. But when you actually get to the heart of them, I think Nick says something like a sinister difference between them. So, you know, it's bizarre and a little sinister. So you have, first off, the differences in appearance. So you've got the Georgian colonial mansions of East Egg, and then you've got the raw ivy and the feudal silhouette of West Egg, which is obviously a very, very important difference because if you look at the description of Gatsby's mansion, the ivy kind of grows up the house. It's almost as if his house is like fighting with the surroundings, like it shouldn't be there. Whereas the Georgian colonial mansions are very much rooted within there. I think it says like the grass grows a little way into the house or something like that. So, you know, it does kind of, the idea that the people in the East Egg are very much permanently there, whereas you've got the sort of hedonism of the West Egg. Also, what's important is that there is the bay in between them. You know, that is basically the symbolism of the class boundary that what's his face? Gatsby can't copy. Yes, oh my gosh, Ruby, 100% true. His mansion is literally a copy of a French mansion. It's so ironic that someone that, you know, tries to build himself as a self-made man is so attached to Europe, somewhere where he could never ever have been a self-made man completely. I think he says feudal silhouette, so you've kind of got that idea that it's fake and all of the light that comes from his mansion is very artificial. Also 100% you could talk about the inside of his house. You know, it's called like Adam's studies, Marie Antoinette bedrooms. It's all very European, which is heavily ironic given the fact that in the European context his illusion would just be a complete sham. So I mean, it does work out quite well when you think about the differences between the two settings. Also, you have to talk about the fact that Nick is welcomed in both eggs. So, you know, that really helps to explore. The class divide is essentially that divide between East and West Egg. Apart from the American dream and Jazz Age, what concept can you talk about? European values, obviously. How they try and separate themselves from, you know, Europe and everything it represents, but it doesn't. And also you can talk about consumer culture, celebrity culture. You can also talk about how Gatsby is linked with the sort of Grail sort of following legend. He says that he follows it like a Grail. He's committed himself to the following of a Grail. You can talk about that and how that's linked to the Arthurian legends. You can link to alcohol, bootlegging, prohibition. You can link to, obviously, property, housing, gangsters. You can talk about Queen's, Valley of Ashes, all of that sort of stuff. There's loads, absolutely loads. You don't need to limit yourself to like jazz age parties. Also with the jazz age, you can talk about women, flappers, but also, you know, the stress of like the fact that there was still a lot of class division. I think the main thing about Gatsby is it's an indictment of the fact that America was trying to present itself as this new liberal America full of opportunity, but it wasn't. It was a place riddled with class division. So it works out quite well in that way. And Jade, I literally said flappers just as you said flappers. That was so crazy. So crazy. Critical interpretations. I cannot help you with that because we don't do critical interpretations for Gatsby. It's one of the texts that we don't do it for. Yeah, how can you talk about structure? Oh my gosh, right. Structure is so important in Gatsby. It's vital. Narrative structure, for one. The fact that Nick does not narrate it in order. You know what I mean? Like, he manipulates the chronology of the novel, which is so important because it shows his manipulation. It shows all of that crap. And 100%, the seasons, the way that the novel is traced through the seasons is so important. You have the bloom of the relationship in the summer and all the hope and the flowers that represents, and then you have the decay and the death of the autumn. You also have the fact that Nick is a narrator. He's a homodiegetic, unreliable, problematic narrator. The way that he influences the novel is really important. He's very complex though, so I feel like that would be stress. What else can you say about structure? You can talk about the fact that Nick narrates it in retrospect and the fact that, you know, that very much links with the sense of inevitability and the sense of doom that's kind of cast over this generation, which seems to be in complete full flower. What else can you talk about? Structure. You can talk about, you know, the fact that it's a 9-chapter novel, very important, and the fact that each chapter is mixed with different narrative devices. Nick doesn't just talk, he uses lists, he uses dialogue, he uses phone calls, he uses all sorts to manipulate. Do you do a streetcar named Desire? I'm going to do a streetcar named Desire at 11 o'clock if you wanted to join in then. You've never read it. You should read it. It's a good book. Not a good book to study, but a good book. I would discuss Daisy, right, but she came up last year for OCR, so she's not going to come up again this year, thank God, and I hate Daisy. Daisy's my least favourite character. No, actually, no, I'm joking. Tom Buchanan. Tom Buchanan is my least favourite character. Nick and Jordan. No one ever talks about Nick and Jordan and their relationship. I think their relationship is so important to the novel. Like, it really does just get overlooked by everybody, I think. And I think what is important about Jordan is Nick's fascination with her. He's so obsessed with her independence and her, like, aloofness, her casual, you know, detachment that the other characters just don't seem to be, you know, possessed with, you know what I mean. Also, you've got the metaphor of the careless driver. That is very important. If you haven't studied that, then I would recommend going back and looking at that. You notice that with Nick, his focus on Daisy is with her voice, his focus on Myrtle is with her sexuality and her body, and his focus with Jordan, I can't speak. His focus with Jordan is his, you know, her posture and her slender muscles and the fact that she learned to walk on golf courses and stuff. And I think what's important about Jordan is at the start, he's very much entranced by her sort of elusive detachment and the way that she's very much independent. She holds herself to a very different standard. She's kind of a representation of that emancipated woman, whereas by the end, that aloof detachment just becomes callous selfishness. Of course, you know, when he says, you know, I was fed up of everyone, and that included Jordan, and he realises that, you know, she is another one of those careless people. So that works out quite well. And also you can talk about how it shows that, you know, there are no meaningful relationships. Their relationship is very superficial in the fact that he was only ever half in love with her, and, you know, he completely slags off his ex. You know, he talks about her mustache and the fact that no one ever talks about that. No one ever talks about that he pied off his ex just to be with Jordan, and then Jordan pies off Nick, says he's engaged with someone else. Also, you've got to talk about the fact that Nick is incredibly misogynistic. Whether that comes across to you, I don't know, but it comes across to me. He never takes a moment to speculate on female feelings at any point in the novel. If you notice the language he uses in relation to Gatsby, he must have, I wonder, according to me, like, I think, right? With Daisy, never. He never tries. He never engages with any of the female psyches in the novel. He says that Daisy cries stormily, but never, you know, everyone always says that she cries about the shirts because of her materialism, because Gatsby is so much the subject of Nick's romanticism that the other characters are completely cast by the wayside. And it's that misogynistic, you know, viewpoint. Women are very much portrayed as negative in the novel. They are portrayed as immoral, selfish, all of that sort of stuff. You know, obviously you have Jordan and her links with like emancipation and stuff, but you very much get this sort of sense of, you know, like the fact that women just care about themselves because Nick never gives them a second thought. He only ever describes their physicality, or in Daisy's case, their voice. There's never a sense of, I wonder what Daisy's thinking. There's never a sense of, I wonder what Jordan's thinking. You know, at the end, you've got Jordan saying, you threw me, you know, for a while, but you never get the sense of what Jordan was feeling. You never get an insight into Myrtle's feelings either. He only ever focuses on her movements, her affected hauteur, her costume, her, you know, all of that, her sensuality, and it's never a sense of what happens. My favourite thing about Gatsby is Myrtle's death, not because Myrtle dies, just because it just shows Nick's narration to a T. Notice in Gatsby's narration, it's completely like, you know, he must have, you know, seen how grotesque a rose was, and he paid a high price for living too long. It's like, it's so like romantic, and he completely like fantasizes about what Gatsby must have felt just before he died. It's that sort of, is it anagorism? I don't know what it is. He has like, you know, how he goes through this process of his cleansing, and he realises that he's been living in reality, and like irreality, and he comes back down to reality. With Gatsby, it's so romantic. We're like a distance from him in life as we are in death. You know, it's like a thin circle of blood. That's it, anagnorize. Yeah, that's it. I can't pronounce it. It's very much distance. Whereas you've got Myrtle, you know, thick black blood mingled with the dust, or thick dark blood, or like, you know, she's kneeling in the road like repentance. It's just so raw, and she's so overtly sexualized in death, just as she is in life. Whereas Gatsby, again, is romanticized in death, just as he is in life. It just shows, right? Gatsby is a victim of Nick's narration, and the women are a victim of Nick's misogynism and his lack of narration of them. Even Tom doesn't get, you know, yes, her breast was hanging loose like a flap. It's so raw, and it's like her mouth is ripped a little at the edges, as if she's been giving up all of that, you know, vitality that she's been storing for so long, and as if she's kneeling in the road. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like as if she's repenting for her actions, but she doesn't need to repent for her actions. All she was trying to do was social climb. Whereas Gatsby's, you know, there's the ripples in the water, the mattress. It's like, come on, really, Nick? Like, really? Pisses me off, really does. There's nothing more annoying than a narrator that tries to speculate on some people's feelings and doesn't on the other. It drives me insane. I know, their deaths are so similar, which is why it annoys me that they're narrated so differently, because both of them are dragged back to the dust. You know, both of them try and social climb, and both of them end up back where they belong, in the dust. It links with the whole religious thing, you know, dust thou art, and to dust thou shalt return. And the fact that they're so similar, and they're both such similar characters. They both try and social climb, they both try and, you know, beat back against the current of time and try and improve themselves. Does it work for them? No, it doesn't. But Gatsby gets all this romanticism. The Great Gatsby, you know. What about the Great Myrtle? No, because Myrtle's only ever described as stupid and shiftless, and, you know, just why? Like, drives me insane. It really annoys me. interpretations. I love the 2013 one, but I really don't think it captures the essence of the novel. It very much focuses on the sort of hedonism. I don't think it's about hedonism. I think it's about the destruction that he leaves in its wake. I don't think you get that sense of decay in the film that you get in the novel. I really don't. Hello, I'm live streaming. What time do you want to go back? Okay, in a bit then. Yeah. What do you think of the last few lines of the novel? Most important lines of the novel, obviously, I think they're a bit overused. I mean, obviously they are the most important lines of the novel, but I think they're a perfect, capture of the human condition, and I think they do capture that sense of disillusionment that really does hang over the novel. And I think that obviously they're important to talk about in an exam. I actually think that the paragraph before that is more important, about the fresh green breast of the New World and the Dutch sailors pandering to the trees and things like that. I think that shows sort of the vision of the American dream before it became so corrupted. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like it represents what the American dream should be, a dream of self-discovery, a dream of self-improvement that's been corrupted into a dream of the pursuit of material acquisition, if you know what I mean. Yeah, I really do think that. I do think that the last section of the novel, I think, is the best section of the novel narrative-wise, but I do think it's used a lot. And I really think that you should talk about, the whole, suck on the pap of life from chapter 6 and link that to the fresh green breast of the New World. You can also compare it to Myrtle's breast. The image of breasts and nurture is something that, comes a lot through the novel, like suck down the milk of wonder and all that crap. Yeah. Ruby, are you going to talk about film interpretations in the exam? No, I'm not, just because I don't do AO5 for Gatsby. I don't do critical interpretations for Gatsby. I do it for Streetcar and Tempest. So, no, I won't be talking about film interpretations. Thankfully, I don't have to do AO5 for that. That would be a bit awkward if I had to, because I have not revised it, so I don't think it's the same as AQA. Do you, what AQA, do you look at Gatsby, through, love and tragedy, or do you not? Because we just do Gatsby as a whole novel, there is no linked theme. We have to study it as just every single theme. So do you kind of look at it, love and tragedy, right? Okay, cool. Is it different on the, is there two specifications for it, or is it just kind of, we compare Gatsby to Othello? Oh right, okay, yeah. Love Through the Ages. Oh, so I imagine that it's love or tragedy. Cool. Yeah, we do it as a whole novel, and we compare it to an unseen extract, which I really hate, because what I hate about Gatsby on mine is that I have so many points I want to talk about, but I can't write stuff if it doesn't link to the extract. We had one the other day about things coming to an end in Gatsby. So much you can talk about, but I could barely talk about any of it because you couldn't link it to the extract. What time do you start revision in the morning? 7 or 8, dependent on my mood. Oh, Gatsby and Jane Eyre. That's such a sick comparison, but I'm not quite sure how that would work. No, I can kind of see it. Wuthering Heights and Great Gatsby. Whoa. I feel like everyone does Gatsby. Right, the unseen extract drives me insane. Swear to God. Do you think Gatsby's great? No, I don't. I think he's great in an ironic sense. I think he's raised to greatness through Nick's narration. He's raised to this sort of godlike image. He's called the son of God. But the irony in that is that his dream is not great. What he pursues is far from great. Daisy is not great. The American dream is not great. There's nothing great about corrupting yourself in pursuit of something that's ultimately futile. I don't think he's great at all. I think Nick's idea of him is that he's great, but I don't think he's great at all. How many hours a day do you revise on average? Near exams, 7 or 8, maybe 9, dependent on my mood. Maybe 6, who knows. How did you find poetry and drama? Absolutely awful. God awful. Tempest, not so bad. I mean, it still wasn't the best essay I've written. Like, it was nothing like my practice. But Chaucer is my best text, and I messed it up. I ran out of time. I didn't get to talk about the one thing that the extract was trying to get at because I ran out of time, and I forgot to put it in an earlier paragraph. So they're going to think that I don't know the text at all. Swear to God. Shoot me in the face. That was the one I revised the most for. The American dream doesn't exist, Millie, 100%. The idea of the American dream is something that people in society use to move them forward, you know, so we beat on, all that sort of stuff. It's definitely not. It's not a real thing if you think about it, because no one ever achieves it. People seem to achieve it, but it's just an illusion. Do you know which subject it'll drop next year? Well, after how that English Lit exam went, it's going to have to be English Lit, innit? When I get a D on results today. But I wanted it to go well so badly and I managed to mess it up. I'm literally so stupid. Gatsby's closed book, yeah. All of my texts are closed book. Thank God I know the quotes, eh? How's my rash? Oh my God, it's all over me still. I'm just trying not to itch. It's got really bad on my legs. Hardest A level. My easiest is Spanish, 100%. Your Gatsby's open book. Oh my God, I literally hate you. I literally hate you so much. No, my hardest A level is if I'm talking about results wise German, like that's but if I'm talking about like exam wise English, because it's so variable, and if you panic on the day, I cry. Hold on, wait, what? Like, wait, do people right, okay. Not that I want it to be an open book exam, because I actually prefer closed book exams because they expect less of you. But like, what, man? I don't have a single open book exam. Like, nothing about mine is open book, apart from I get the extract for Chaucer, which I messed up. For God's sake. What stress? How many quotes you learn? I don't have a list of quotes. I just know them. Do you know what I mean? Like, never mind. Yeah, Thomas Jefferson. That's why I always go on about my essays. I'm like, the whole Thomas Jefferson idea of the American dream is corrupt in itself because he's linked with slavery. Duh. What question did you answer on Friday's paper? I did Ariel is no more than Prospero's slave, or whatever that one was. Because the second chances one, I was just like, no. So, and then Chaucer, obviously we had to do the garden. But I didn't mention the main line in the extract because I ran out of damn time. Do you have to write about critics for Gatsby? No, we don't. Not for Gatsby and not for Chaucer. We don't have to write about critics. We do next year, but this year we don't. We have to. It's quite a large part for. What's it called? Streetcar and Tempest. Yeah. I did actually manage to get my AO5 in on my Tempest essay, so that was okay. That wasn't too bad. Should you do a new point in your conclusion? Oh my God, yes, slay me, right, yes. Oh my gosh, this is like my number one tip, is put a new point in your conclusion. I know some people don't like doing that, but I just think it just makes your essay 100 times better. So, I don't know, for example, for my Ariel essay, I said in my conclusion that Ariel himself as a spirit is immortal, whereas Prospero is constantly associated with language to do with mortality. He talks about his grave, he talks about things dissolving, he talks about things dissipating. So it kind of worked out quite well. And then I said, well, he's got to be more than Prospero's slave, because slavery is only a temporary part in his life. And that was my point to conclude on. Didn't write it very well because I had 2 minutes to write it, but you know, that's my issue. Usually my conclusions are like mic drop. But they weren't, because I literally, right, my Chaucer one I wrote in a minute. a minute. I mean, it was a good point. It was a very good conclusion, I won't lie. But that was the only good part of the essay. And I don't remember how I wrote it, so I'm just hoping I wrote it well. Anyway, Gatsby. Let's not dwell on things that have gone, because I need to do well in this exam to drag my grade back up. If you had the exam on Friday, how did you guys find it? Just out of any consolation. To be fair, I've never ever had time, never ever felt like an English exam's gone well, and it always does. So I'm hoping that just happens again. But I know that Chaucer has not, because they're going to be like, well, she doesn't understand the text, clearly, because she's said the wrong person. And I didn't mean to write the wrong person. I just was rushing. I cried as well. I cried all day. Cried all day Friday. Did no work Friday afternoon. I literally cried all day. And I pride myself in my essay writing skills. I always think that I can write a really good essay, and my structure just went away. A fellow went fab. Yeah, like, I feel like I had one that went quite well and then one that didn't go very well. I feel like my Tempest essay was nowhere near as good as the time ones I've been doing in lessons and stuff, because I was just panicking in the exam. And I don't know what I wrote. So that's great. I have no clue what I wrote at all, because I did not have time to read through, because an hour and a half just goes so fast. But yeah, I felt like I forgot how to articulate an idea in the way that I usually can. My writing just went from sophisticated to like... with AQA, our questions were really specific. Was it the same with OCR? Yes. Right. How did you find it, by the way, Ruby? Did you find it okay? And yeah, nobody can write a perfect response under pressure. That's true. That's what my English teacher told me when I came out crying. Our questions were really niche, especially for Chaucer. Usually it's discuss the portrayal of a character, but it was discuss the portrayal of a character's garden and his change in fortune. Garden. Right? Garden. What's your favourite sentence from the book? Oh my god, there's so many. I don't know. There's too many books. Too many sentences. The whole book is like a poem. I would say my favourite line is, I was both within and without, simultaneously enchanted and repelled by the inexhaustible variety of life. That's literally my favourite quote. I love it. But yeah, after how Chaucer went, I've basically kissed my A goodbye anyway. So, I mean, there's not really much point in me revising for it now, is there? I don't mean to recite quotes. How many quotes have you learned? Not many. Shakespeare was okay, didn't go as well as I wanted. Poetry question was far too specific. Ruby, did you feel like all of your timed lessons that you've done outside were just so much better, and that when you got in the exam you just kind of lost that ability to like structure a point, and you were kind of just like making it a bit more of a whistle stop tour than anything, and you were just trying to write? Because that's how I felt. I felt like I didn't think, yeah, okay, thank God, Ruby, because honestly I thought it was just me. I felt like I was writing and I was like, this is just so not as eloquent as I usually am. I cry. How do you remember quotes? I think it's just because I've read the book so many times and I have quote cards and mind maps, and yeah. So, no, but the issue with Samira is that I know that, you know, it's not going to be as beautifully polished, but I literally wrote the wrong person. So I'm screwed. It takes a lot longer to get 100%, and also I feel like because you've only got 45 minutes, you're very aware of the fact that you need to just write. You don't have time to sit and think. So yeah, I honestly, my Tempest essay was just so not how it usually was. Do you prepare analysis before you go in? Nah, just make it up as you go. Just make it up as you go. As long as you've got the quote, you've got the context. Yeah, that was another issue. I didn't put context in for Chaucer because it was impossible. How are you supposed to link... How are you supposed to link a garden to context apart from the Garden of Eden? Like, literally you can't. There is no... and same with Ariel. If any of you do Tempest, what context do you link Ariel to? Because I literally just can't link him. Like, I was there like, I don't know what to link him to. I linked him to the fact that it was Shakespeare's last play. That's literally the only context that I used. How do you learn critics' names? I'm so bad at that. I know a lot of critics' quotes, but I never can remember their names. I did in the exam though. I did. I remembered that Gerard said it was Shakespeare's farewell to his art, and I remembered whatever the other quote that was. Wilson calls Prospero the controller and the manipulator. But some of them, no. Psychoanalysis. My whole essay was on psychoanalysis, trusts. But I didn't actually say the word psychoanalysis. I was just saying how Ariel represents the creative spirit. Yeah. How do you find critic quotes? I've just read like so many critical articles this year, and I've just noted them down as I've gone, and now they're all on Quizlet. High level terminology. Right. Try not to like get too pent up on this, because I did, and I feel like it just ended up being a list of rhetorical devices, and I accidentally put superlative instead of hyperbole, so they're going to basically think that I'm thick for Chaucer. They're just going to think that I'm stupid. Yeah, Google Scholar, Google Books, all of them, absolutely amazing. If you, I find English lit easy as a subject. I just find the exam hard because it's so variable, and I panic on the day, and you just don't have. If you gave me 15 minutes extra for each of my essays, trust me, I would not be panicking as much. I'm basically going to fail English lit now, even though I've been getting full marks, if not like pretty much all year. So that's great. Gatsby's fatal flaw. Oh my gosh, yes, gal. Right. There are two ways of looking at this. Yes, Mol, my next paper's on Wednesday, thank God. There are two ways of looking at this. You can either think that Gatsby's fatal flaw is himself, and it's his, it's his dream, his love for Daisy, his dogged absolutism, his blindness to social restriction, all of that. Or you can argue that his fatal flaw is existing in a society, his flaw is, living in that society. So I think it depends, like, I would say that his fatal flaw is, like the outer impulses of a corrupt society, but you could say it's his attempt to like control time. He has such an obsession with creating this perfect future from a perfect past, which I just think is something that's never going to work out well. You can talk about his Grail-like mentality. It literally does compare him, his faithful, following and all that sort of stuff. How the fuck do you get full marks? Well, I can't relate because I didn't get full marks in that exam. What did you get in your mocks? In my English mock, I got 28 or 29 on both of my essays out of 30, which wasn't too bad. My Chaucer essay, I read it back last night and I was like, I wish I wrote that in the exam. But yeah, so not too bad, but I definitely did not get that in that exam, which is really friggin' annoying. What are critics' quotes? Basically, they're just ways of informing your interpretation of the text. You don't have to use critics' quotes. You can also use performances, or just sort of general critical schools of thought. So it depends on your mood. I mean, like in my area essay, I spoke about 2 different performances, 2 different critics' quotes, and then from like a psychoanalytic and post-colonialist perspective. So I think my essay was a bit too much AO5, but hey, it's cool. Do you always embed your quotes? Well, if I'm trying to like analyse the literary language, the the rhetorical devices in the quote, then no. Because I'll be like, I don't know, Prospero moves from using closed domineering questions such as to questions that show his insecurity such as, which obviously isn't embedding your quote. But then if I'm like just trying to make a point, I'll just embed little one words that just make you look like you know the text so much better. So like I was talking about how Ariel visually is always on stage in his, so he kind of facilitates Prospero's omnipresence, because without him Prospero would not have the eyes and ears. So I said he's always on stage, for example, during the perfidious plotting of Antonio and Sebastian, and the and then I was talking about the foul conspiracy of Caliban and his counterparts. So like I kind of just added quotes to just make, you know what I mean, like make it good. I don't know if I explained that very well. Who do you think the true antagonist of the novel is? Oh, good question. I would say it really depends, again, from the time period in which you look at it, because if you're looking at it from our perspective, a lot of people would like to say that Daisy is the main antagonist purely because of her fleeing from responsibility, her detachment, her callousness, her lack of ability to make good decisions. But if you need to make sure you look at it from a product of her time. She is very much pressured. She's very acutely aware of her societal position and the fragility of that. So, but then I would say, personally for me, I would say that Tom is obviously the main antagonist, just because that he has no redeeming qualities whatsoever. There is no sense of, there is nothing redemptory about him. There's nothing that makes you feel that, there is some sort of hope within him. But then you could also argue that the true antagonist of the novel is the foul dust, is society itself. The foul dust that preyed on Gatsby is the hidden class boundaries, the fake pretense of opportunity, the class divisions that he just couldn't transcend, the corruption that he has to use to build his new identity but subsequently destroys him. It's a society that creates him and destroys him. See, Alice, I just did not feel hope. I just kind of saw that as emotional manipulation when he's like, when he makes Daisy say that he loved him. I just feel like that's emotional manipulation, personally. Yeah, I just really wish I'd had the chance to read over my essays. I did not have a chance to read over my essays, which is something that I always usually do. I'm hoping that examiners are more positive than negative markers, so on the bit that I messed up the person, I'm praying that they just kind of ignore that sentence, because it was only a sentence. And I'm hoping that they take the fact that I didn't mention the main line in the extract as the fact that I'm trying to make a more nuanced argument. Because I know that he goes blind. I know that he does. I just didn't mention it because I was about to mention it, and then he was like, pens down, and I was like, God! Sorry about my chair, it's really squeaky. How do you write a time frame? Try not to do what I did on Friday and just write, because I really wish I'd written less but more structured, if you get my gist. Has anyone got any more questions about Gatsby while we're here? Because my Chaucer essay, Beth, right, I've written bad essays in my life. That was the worst essay I've ever written, ever. I missed out, the extract just had so much in it. I just missed out all of the cool bits that I could have talked about. I missed out Pluto and Proserpina. I missed out the God of the Gardens. I missed out, the whole first bit. And I missed out the bit where he went blind. I was focused so doggedly on the garden and making up rhetorical devices that weren't there. I was going on about how his change of fortune was the fact that he gets deceived by May at the end, how he facilitates his own cuckolding. His change of fortune is the fact that he goes friggin' blind. I swear. I'm so stupid. I literally so stupid. No, right. I was going on about the apostrophe as if he was talking to Damien. He was talking to Fortune, because I got it mixed up with the apostrophe where he talks to Damien. Bitch. I swear. I was so annoyed. I put the context of the Romance of the Rose, I put in so much, but I didn't explain it. I talked about the scorpion having sexual connotations, but then I didn't explain why that's sexual in any way. Because he's the god of the genitals. And I spoke about, in my conclusion, how this garden and the actions that take place in it is far from Romance of the Rose, but I didn't explain what Romance of the Rose was. So they're going to think, well, she's explained it, but she hasn't said why. I didn't point out the obvious at all in my Chaucer essay. Have I studied Streetcar? Yes. Oh my god, Streetcar is my absolute favourite. Absolute favourite. I love it. If I messed it up now, I'll kill myself. I am going to do Streetcar, but I might do it tomorrow because I have to go back to my mum's now, which I'm afraid. God of the Genital. You know what I mean? He's a sign of the genitals on the zodiac, but I literally just said Chaucer utilises the word scorpion to connote that January's deceit is at the hands of Damien's raw sexuality, but I didn't say why. And I did talk about Romance of the Rose being, how it's a parody of courtly literature and it's a parody of courtly love, because gardens are supposed to be courtly, but there's nothing courtly about thronging. How are you so good at English? Well, I'm clearly not, because I messed up my exam, so, you know. 3 pages of notes. Oh, Christ, you were taking notes. Oh, dear. What type of question are you hoping for Gatsby? Please, please let it be corruption, decay, death, all of that sort of stuff. I just want that. I just want that. Or I would love, 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 love a question on Nick as a narrator. He would be great. What grade do you think you got in an essay? A solid D. I hope I got an A in The Tempest. D. D in Chaucer. F. They're going to be like, we can't give her a mark. She didn't understand the main part of the extract. Oh, fuck's sake. I'm such a failure, I swear to God. Do you like The Tempest? Love it, but I feel like I just didn't show it in my exam, do you know what I mean? But hey, it's cool. No, everyone's like, I'm sure it went okay. I'm like, it didn't. It didn't. It did not go okay. If it did, I wouldn't. I bet you got an A star. No. No, my absolute dread of a question for Gatsby would be gender, marriage, or I would absolutely hate for Myrtle to come up, just because I really hate talking about her. I don't think everyone messed up Chaucer. Most people I've spoken to spoke about Pluto and Proserpina, spoke about the god of the gardens, spoke about him going blind. I did not. Favourite section of The Great Gatsby? Oh my God, chapter 5. Chapter 5 is my favourite chapter of any novel ever. Oh, gender and marriage. I did a past paper question on gender and I literally hated it. All I could talk about was Nick's misogynism and Tom. That was it. And there's no context. You can't link it to the Jazz Age. You have to link it to marriage. Did I get Ferdinand and Miranda? No, I bloody didn't. I was livid. I couldn't even mention them. They were the only characters. The only characters of the play I didn't mention. The only characters. The only characters. The only characters. You can talk about gender stereotypes, but I just really feel like it's such a limited question, especially when it's linked to an extract, because, you know, you kind of have, it's so difficult to like link it to the extract with gender. With other things like death, decay, jazz age, hedonism, it just all links perfectly. But with gender, the extracts I find tend to be very much, you know, like women portrayed as weak and shit. But all you can talk about is is Daisy marrying without so much of the shiver, and you can talk about the whole thing with the pearl necklace and just all of that stuff. But it's so hard to write about it without, because for my example, I don't know about yours, context is 30%, so you like need to be talking about context, and I really want to talk about the Jazz Age and the 20s, not just about females in the Jazz Age and the 20s. I suppose you could talk about Jordan. I suppose that is one good thing. You can talk about how she represents the emancipated woman, and you can talk about Myrtle. But the extract I had the other day was about gender, and the only link you could make to the extract was Daisy, which annoyed me so much because you just can't talk about her. She's so annoying. I just hate her as a character. I'm hoping gender won't come up though, because Daisy came up last year. 50% context. Oh my God, no, I'm not taking it for A2. I swear to God, I can't. Do you prefer wider text or extract? Wider text. Oh my God, Streetcar and Tempest are wider text, and I just love them so much more because you can just talk about the damn text rather than comparing it to other ones. Like, stop. It's just so much nicer. Gatsby is it's a really good book, but like, you know, I don't like studying it at all. It's my least favourite out of the 4 to write about. Yeah, at GCSE, I got 4 UMS in all of my exams, apart from the one that I did the extract question in. Because at GCSE, we got a choice between discursive and extract. Right, favourite female character in Gatsby? Ooh, can I say none? No, I like Myrtle. I feel like Myrtle's really misunderstood. I don't like Jordan. I don't like Daisy. I like Daisy's child. Does she count? No? Okay. Well, anyway, I feel like this is a good place to stop. I'm really glad that we, you know, got some chance to do some discussion on Gatsby. What text would you rather study? Any other text, literally. I really just wish I could study like decent texts, not Gatsby. I really want to study Jane Eyre. I hope this was helpful anyway. I'm going to go and do some German revision now because I have German next week too, so I need to go and do some German because thankfully Spanish is out the way now, so yeah. At least, even though my English exam didn't go well, at least I think I nailed my Spanish exams, so I mean it's not too deep. And you, Ruby, you'll do way more brilliant than me, trust me. I've messed up my English exam to the point where I literally can't get an A now. And you're welcome, Jade. Thank you for watching and gracing me with your beautiful ideas. It's a shame that we study it from different perspectives, because I feel like if not, it would be so much easier. Yeah, this was a bit of a different live stream, but I quite enjoyed it. I quite enjoyed talking about different ideas. I find it very hard to articulate myself in speaking more than in writing though. Good luck with all your exams, kiddos. Pray for me I don't get a D on results day, because I'm actually going to cry after that Chaucer. And yeah, okay, I'll see you all later. Best of luck. I might do streetcar tomorrow. I'm going to do some streetcar revision later, so I'll see how I feel. And I will see you very, very soon. And I'll keep this on my channel so you'll be able to see it. Okay,